In Lagos Mainland, gossip travels faster than traffic, and that week, everyone was talking about the 15-year-old boy who married a 60-year-old woman. They called her Madam Verity, rich, beautiful, and generous. But behind her smile was something older than Lagos itself, and when the red door opened, the city forgot how to breathe. Hey, Bestie. You know how life in Africa can be, full of drama, love, and unexpected turns. Today's story is one of those that will make you laugh, think, and maybe even tear up a little. So grab your tea, get comfortable, don't forget to tell us where you are watching from in the comment, and let your bestie tell you a story. They said news in Lagos moved faster than traffic at 2 a.m., and it found 15-year-old Tobi Adesina before he even finished sweeping the corridor of their Face Me, I Face You in a Jeej. He was tall for his age, slim, and forever peeling his lips, no matter how much sachet water he drank. Tobi didn't talk much. He listened, to generators coughing awake, to neighbors arguing about light bills, to his father Kunnel, whispering debts to himself like prayers. That Thursday, Kunnel stumbled in from Okoto Market, smiling like a man who had seen a miracle and a curse at once. "Tobi," he called. "Good news." Tobi paused, broom midair. "Sir." Kunnel wiped sweat with the hem of his faded jersey. "You're getting married." The broom dropped. "I'm 15. In old times, boys your age went to war," Kunnel said, forcing a grin. "This one is blessing. She saw you buying bread last week, liked your smile." "I barely smile," Tobi muttered. "Madam Verity Adenuga," Kunnel announced proudly. "Real estate tycoon. That big cream-white mansion in Acadia GRA. She sent rice, a cow, 2 new phones, and transferred 5 million naira. I signed." "You signed for me?" Tobi's voice thinned. "You don't ask the rain why it falls," Kunnel said softly. "You put out your bucket." By evening, 2 Prado escorts and a black G-Wagon blocked the narrow lane. Women peeked through curtains. Men leaned on bikes. Children whispered, sugar mummy behind dirty smiles. Drummers appeared from nowhere, and plastic cups of malt moved through the crowd. The G-Wagon door opened. Madam Verity stepped down in a flowing wine-red gown, gold jewelry glinting under streetlight. Her hair, silver streaks tucked into a low bun, framed a face smooth with careful powder and wealth. She wasn't young, but she carried her years like perfume, expensive, heavy, unforgettable. When she smiled, the crowd went silent. "Do you accept me?" she asked, her voice calm, seasoned, and oddly soothing. Tobi smelled roses and something bitter like burnt leaves. He nodded because everyone was watching. "Good." Verity leaned close and kissed his forehead. "Let's go home." The ride to Acadia was quiet. Neon billboards flickered over Ojuelegba Bridge. Hawkers waved trays of gala. The city glowed. Verity's perfume filled the car, rich, sweet, choking. "Do you like meat pie?" she asked suddenly. "Yes, Ma. I'll have them bake you 20. You're too skinny." The smart gate of her mansion opened without a guard's touch. Lights came alive one after another, like obedient servants. Inside, everything gleamed, floor, chandelier, even the air. Mirrors lined every wall, tall, round, oval, some shaped like eyes. Tobi's reflection followed him like a second soul. "This is our home," Verity said, holding his hand. "Go anywhere you like, except one place." She pointed to a long corridor where soft red light bled beneath a door. "Never open that door. Ever." Tobi swallowed. "Yes, Ma." Dinner was fried rice, chicken, puff-puff, and pineapple juice in tall glasses that caught golden light. Verity barely ate. She only watched him, her smile kind but her eyes too calm, too knowing. "Tomorrow, your new life begins," she said softly. "No more suffering. You're my king now." That night, Tobi lay on a bed softer than any he'd known. The AC hummed gently, but at midnight the air thickened, the fan slowed, the window trembled. The mirror in the corner fogged though the room was cold. Then a faint cry. A baby, somewhere down the hall. Tobi sat up, heart hammering. The red door glowed faintly, like a candle behind paint. He shut his door, crawled under the duvet, and whispered, "Please let morning come." When it did, he brushed his teeth, looked up, and froze. His reflection blinked twice. He only blinked once. Morning came with sunlight, so bright it made the chandeliers look alive. Tobi sat up slowly, unsure if he truly slept or just drifted through fear. The red glow from last night was gone, but the feeling wasn't. The silence of the house pressed against his ears. No birds, no footsteps, not even the hum of a generator. Just stillness. He dressed quickly, his new shirt smelling faintly of lavender and something metallic. Downstairs, Madam Verity sat by the dining table, reading a newspaper older than the date printed on it. She smiled when she saw him. "My king is awake," she said. "How did you sleep?" Tobi hesitated. "Fine, Ma. Good." She gestured to the food lay before him. Yam porridge, fish stew, fruits, and milk in a glass that looked like it came from another century. "Eat, Tobi. Don't be shy." He sat and picked slowly at the food. It tasted perfect, but something about it felt wrong. Too rich, too seasoned, like it had been cooked to impress spirits, not humans. Verity sipped her tea, eyes never leaving him. "You'll get used to this place," she said softly. "The house is big. It watches everyone who lives here." "The house watches," Tobi repeated. She smiled faintly. "It listens too." He tried to laugh but couldn't. Her face didn't change. Only her eyes did, small flickers of amusement and warning. After breakfast, she gave him a tour. The mansion stretched like a maze, rooms upon rooms filled with glass tables, porcelain statues, and portraits of people who all looked like her, younger versions in wedding gowns, party dresses, business suits. Everywhere mirrors. No dust, no fingerprints, but when Tobi passed, some reflections blinked before he did. He slowed in front of a painting, a young boy in a white shirt, eyes wide, face pale. "Who's that?" he asked. "One of my nephews," Verity said quickly. "He left long ago." The air suddenly felt colder. Later that afternoon, Tobi wandered alone. He walked down the hall with a red door, stopping far from it, but close enough to feel something humming beneath the walls. His hand tingled as he stretched it toward the doorknob, not to touch, just to feel. Something pulsed behind the wood, slow, like a heartbeat. "Tobi!" Verity's voice echoed sharply. He jumped. She was at the end of the hall, her expression unreadable. "I told you not to come here," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "There are things in this world curiosity cannot fix." "I'm sorry, Ma," he whispered. Her face softened. "You'll learn." That night, he lay awake again. The house seemed to breathe around him. A mirror across the room caught his reflection, but this time, it was smiling, and he wasn't. The smile widened, slow and deliberate. Then the reflection whispered, barely audible through the glass. 7 days. Tobi sat up, his heart pounding. "Who said that?" The mirror fogged over again. His reflection vanished, and from somewhere deep inside the house, a door creaked open. The next morning felt heavier than the last. Lagos sunlight poured through the windows, but it didn't reach the corners of Madam Verity's mansion. The air stayed cold, like the house had its own weather. Tobi dressed in silence, glancing at the mirror only once before stepping away. He didn't want to see another smile that wasn't his. When he got downstairs, Madam Verity was gone. Only breakfast waited, fried plantain, eggs, and hot chocolate steaming in a silver cup. He ate a few bites before hearing something faint, footsteps, small ones, slow and light, like slippers sliding on tiles. He looked up. 2 boys stood by the hallway wall, both dressed in white shirts and black shorts. They were barefoot. Their faces were expressionless, eyes fixed straight ahead. "Good morning," Tobi said, forcing a smile. "Are you the house helps?" No response. They didn't blink. He walked closer. "Hey, I'm talking to you." Still nothing. Tobi frowned. One boy looked no older than him, the other could have been 10. He stepped closer until he could see his reflection doubled in their black eyes. He reached out to tap one on the shoulder. "Leave them." The voice came from behind. Tobi turned fast. Madam Verity stood by the kitchen door, wearing a silk robe the color of old wine. Her smile was faint, but her tone was sharp enough to slice through air. "They don't talk," she said. "I rescued them from the street. They're obedient." Tobi looked back at the boys. They looked like statues. Verity walked closer, perfume following her like mist. That's what happens when people are too silent for too long. The taller boy blinked suddenly, but not normally. His eyes rolled upward first, then down again, as if something else was looking through him. Tobi stepped back. "Come," Madam Verity said gently. "Let's eat together." At the table, she served him herself, spoon after spoon of steaming rice and pepper soup, though she didn't touch her own plate. "You don't eat?" he asked quietly. She smiled. "I only take what I need." Her voice was calm, but her eyes glinted when she said it. Tobi pushed his food aside. "Can I go outside? Just to walk around?" "There's air in the garden," she said, her tone light but final. "I mean outside the gate." She looked up sharply. The air shifted. "You don't need the outside world anymore. Out there, no one cared when you were hungry. In here you have peace." Tobi nodded slowly. His chest felt tight. "Good boy," she said, reaching across the table. Her fingers brushed his cheek. The touch was soft, but it made his skin crawl. She smiled again, leaning close enough for him to smell her perfume, sweet and stale at once. "You're mine now," she whispered, "till your last breath." When she stood, the chandelier above them flickered. The two silent boys turned their heads in unison, not toward her but toward Tobi. Their eyes were empty. That night, the house whispered again. It wasn't loud, just the kind of silence that had sound. The hum of distant air conditioners, the slow ticking of invisible clocks, the faint echo of footsteps that didn't belong to anyone alive. Tobi lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the soft blue LED lights blinking above him like distant stars. He could feel the house breathing, slow and steady like it was alive. Sleep never came. At some point, a cold wind slipped through the closed window. The mirror fogged up. Then he heard it, a soft hum. Not words, just a sound, sad and low, like someone singing from behind a wall. He sat up slowly. "Who's there?" he whispered. The hum stopped. His heartbeat filled the silence. Tobi slid off the bed and opened his door carefully. The corridor stretched long and quiet. The chandeliers above flickered in a rhythm that didn't match the electricity. His bare feet touched the marble floor, cold, smooth, and pulsing faintly beneath his skin. Then he saw it. At the far end of the hall, the red door glowed faintly again. A dim red light leaked out from under the frame, steady and warm like a heartbeat. He walked closer, step by step, each one echoing softly. His mind screamed don't, but his body didn't stop. He could smell something faint in the air, perfume and burnt leaves. When he reached the end of the corridor, he raised his hand and pressed his palm lightly against the door. It was warm, alive. He leaned closer, ear against the wood. At first, there was nothing. Then, a faint whisper. "Tobi." He froze. His heart skipped 2 beats. "Hello," he whispered. A small sigh came from the other side. Then knocking. Soft, like tiny fists. 1, 2, 3. He stumbled backward, heart racing. "Who's there?" No answer. The door stopped glowing. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind him. He turned fast. The 2 boys in white were standing halfway down the hall, their faces blank. Tobi's voice trembled. "What are you doing here?" They didn't move. Their heads tilted slightly to the same side, like puppets being pulled by one string. Then both pointed slowly at the red door. "What does that mean?" he asked. They didn't answer. Their arms dropped to their sides. Then, together, they whispered one word, voices dry and flat. "Run!" The chandelier lights went out. The hallway plunged into darkness. Tobi bolted back toward his room, slamming the door and locking it. His chest heaved. He pressed his ear to the door. Silence. Then came soft laughter, a woman's laughter, low and familiar, echoing from the other side of the corridor. "Tobi!" Madam Verity's voice floated through the air, calm and close. Curiosity can kill faster than poison. He backed away from the door, slowly. When morning came, he found muddy footprints outside his room. Small ones. Child-sized. By sunrise, Tobi could no longer tell if he was tired or terrified. His eyes burned from sleeplessness. The footprints outside his door had already dried, but they were proof something, or someone, had been walking while he slept. When he went downstairs, Madam Verity was humming in the living room, her hair wrapped in silk, sipping pap from a golden cup. The 2 silent boys stood behind her like bodyguards. "Good morning, my king," she said warmly. Good morning, Ma, Toby replied, keeping his eyes on the floor. You look pale, she said, standing up. Did you have bad dreams? He shook his head. No, Ma. I just couldn't sleep. Verity smiled slowly. The house is old. It remembers things. The walls whisper sometimes. You'll get used to it. He forced a nod. After breakfast, she told him to explore the house. Anywhere you like, she said, before going upstairs to take a call. As soon as she disappeared, Toby's curiosity burned hotter than fear. There was one place he hadn't checked, the library. He pushed open the carved wooden doors. Dust floated in the air, dancing in sunlight that leaked through the blinds. Shelves lined the walls, filled with books so old their titles had faded. The smell of paper and polish was thick. He ran his fingers across the spines until one caught his attention. A dark red book with no title, sticking out slightly as if it had been pulled before. He hesitated, then slid it free. The cover felt warm. When he opened it, the first line was written in shaky ink. Diary of Boy Number 12. Toby frowned and turned the page. My name was Samuel. I arrived here in 1998. My parents said Madam Verity would take care of me, feed me, send me to school. She fed me, yes, but not food. Every 7 days, one of us disappears. The red door hides what she is. The mirrors show who she used to be. Toby's hands trembled. He flipped through more pages. If you find this diary, you are the next one. Don't eat her food. Don't trust her voice. Run before the 7th day. He stopped breathing. Suddenly, a voice behind him said, Enjoying your reading? Toby spun around, nearly dropping the book. Madam Verity stood in the doorway, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. I was just looking, he stammered. Her lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I told you to explore, not to pry. She walked closer, the hem of her gown brushing the floor. Some stories are better left unread. Toby hid the diary behind his back, but she noticed. Her smile widened. Curious boy, she whispered. Let's see how long your curiosity lasts. She turned and glided away. When she was gone, Toby pulled the diary close to his chest. The last page he'd read still echoed in his head. 7 days. He looked up at the mirror across the library. His reflection was still holding the book, but smiling. Toby couldn't stop shaking. The diary's words burned in his head. You are the next one. He hid the book beneath his mattress, glancing at the mirror just to make sure his reflection wasn't smiling again. It wasn't, but that didn't make him feel safer. By afternoon, Madam Verity had left the house for business meetings. 2 drivers followed her convoy through the automatic gate. The silence that followed was a relief and an opportunity. Toby stepped carefully into the hallway, barefoot. The 2 boys in white were standing by the staircase, staring into nothing as usual. He moved past them slowly, whispering, I'm going out for fresh air. Don't tell her. They didn't move. Outside, the mansion's compound was massive. Trimmed hedges, marble statues, and a fountain shaped like 2 women holding a bowl of water that never ran dry. The sky above Akajigire was bright and still. Toby walked quickly toward the main gate. He was sure it would open. He had to try, but as he got closer, something strange happened. The gate shimmered. 1 second it was solid iron, the next it looked like fog, rippling, soft, untouchable. His reflection appeared on it, waving even though he wasn't. He reached out. His palm met nothing. The gate wasn't there. He stepped back, gasping. The walls around the compound seemed taller, stretching toward the clouds. A faint voice whispered in the wind, a woman's voice, soft and mocking. You can't leave, my king. Toby spun around. No one was there. He ran back to the house, his slippers slapping against the floor. The 2 boys hadn't moved an inch. But as he passed them, one whispered, so quietly he almost missed it. 7 days. He froze. What did you say? The boy blinked, eyes wide, then whispered again. 7 days until she feeds. Toby's heart thudded. Feeds on what? The other boy turned his head slowly. His lips barely moved. You. Then they went silent again, still as statues. He ran to his room and locked the door, pressing his back against it. His breath came in short, sharp bursts. She was feeding on them. On boys. His phone was gone, replaced by a brand new one that didn't have a SIM card. He tried dialing emergency numbers anyway, but the line never connected. Only a faint static sound came through, followed by a whisper that made his skin crawl. Tobi! He threw the phone onto the bed. That evening, Madam Verity returned. The gate opened for her like nothing had happened. She walked into the house humming softly, her jewelry glowing against her dark gown. "I hope my king behaved today," she said, smiling sweetly. Tobi managed a shaky nod. "Good," she whispered, brushing his cheek with her cold fingers. "We'll celebrate soon." That night, he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the red door glowing in the dark and heard the same whisper. 7 days, till she feeds. Tobi didn't plan to open the red door that night. He had promised himself he wouldn't, but fear can twist into curiosity when silence becomes too loud. The house was breathing again, slow, deep alive. He sat on the edge of the bed, the diary open in his lap. The pages fluttered though the window was closed. A line he hadn't noticed before caught his eye. The red door opens for those she chooses to eat next. His hands went cold. He stood up, gripping the diary, and crept into the hallway. The lights flickered. The chandeliers swayed as though stirred by unseen wind. The 2 boys in white were gone from their usual spot by the stairs. The red glow at the end of the corridor was faint but pulsing, like a warning, or a heartbeat. Each step Tobi took echoed louder than the last. When he finally reached the door, he pressed his palm against it, warm like skin. He whispered, "Please don't open." But it did. The door creaked slowly inward, revealing a spiral staircase that descended into darkness. A smell rose up, earth, dust, and something sharp like old blood. Tobi hesitated, but then he heard a sound. A hum. The same lullaby he'd heard before, only clearer now. He descended, clutching the banister. The air grew colder with every step. At the bottom, a single light flickered above a wide chamber. The walls were covered in carvings, strange symbols drawn with red paint. In the center of the floor stood a circle of mirrors, cracked and dirty, each facing inward. And in the middle sat a small clay, gourd wrapped in red thread. The hum grew louder. Tobi stepped closer, heart thundering. He saw movement inside the mirrors, faces of boys, dozens of them, their eyes empty, their mouths open as if screaming silently. He whispered, "Oh God!" One of the mirrors rippled. A face pushed through the surface like water. It was one of the boys in white. "Run," the reflection whispered, his eyes glowing faintly. Before Tobi could move, a voice drifted down the stairs behind him. Soft, calm, terrifying. "So you found it." He turned. Madam Verity stood at the top of the staircase, her red gown trailing behind her like smoke. Her face looked younger than before, too young. The wrinkles were gone. Her eyes glimmered gold in the low light. She descended gracefully, her voice smooth as honey. "That gourd keeps me alive. Every name, every breath I've taken lives inside it. You were meant to join them." Tobi shook his head, backing away. "You're a monster." She smiled. "No, darling. I'm eternal." The mirrors trembled. The boys inside began to cry soundlessly. Tobi grabbed the diary and swung it against the gourd. The impact cracked the clay slightly. A faint scream echoed around the room. Verity's eyes widened. "Stop," she hissed. He hit it again. Harder. The gourd split open, and red light exploded across the chamber, shattering every mirror at once. The chamber shook as if a storm had been trapped beneath the ground. The gourd split open fully, spilling light that burned like fire and ice at once. The sound wasn't just a scream. It was hundreds of them, voices of boys long gone, freed and furious. Tobi stumbled backward, covering his ears. The mirrors shattered one by one, glass flying across the room like silver rain. From each broken shard, faint figures began to rise, silhouettes of children, pale and flickering like candlelight. Madam Verity fell to her knees, clutching her chest. Her voice cracked, no longer smooth and elegant. "What have you done?" "You should have left me alone," Tobi shouted over the noise. Her face twisted, half beautiful, half rotten. The light from the gourd lit every hidden wrinkle, every patch of decayed flesh she disguised beneath makeup and magic. "You don't understand," she cried. "Without them I fade." "Then fade." Tobi turned to run, but the ground split beneath him. The red symbols on the walls bled liquid light. The staircase began to crumble. He jumped over the first crack, climbing fast. Behind him, the boys' spirits screamed louder, their voices blending into one deep note that made the whole house tremble. Madam Verity rose again, her body stretching unnaturally tall. Her hair turned black as ink, her eyes burned white. "You cannot leave!" she hissed, lunging forward. Tobi grabbed the last step, just as the floor collapsed beneath her. The gourd burst apart completely. A blinding light swallowed her. Her scream echoed through the walls, through the floors, through every mirror in the mansion, and then silence. He reached the top and slammed the red door shut. The lock melted into place by itself, but the mansion wasn't still. The walls groaned like they were breathing their last breath. Chandeliers crashed to the floor. Windows shattered. Portraits burned from the inside out, faces twisting into ash. Tobi ran through the hallway. The silent boys were standing by the dining room again, but now their eyes were clear. They looked at him, confused, frightened, human. "Run!" he shouted. They followed. The house screamed, beams cracking, glass exploding. The grand staircase collapsed behind them as they dashed toward the main gate. Outside, the fog that had replaced the gate was fading. The air shimmered as if reality itself was tearing open. "Go!" Tobi yelled. The boys leapt through the opening one by one, vanishing into the night air. When the last one was through, Tobi turned for one final look. The mansion stood like a giant shadow, trembling, folding in on itself. In the doorway he saw her, Madam Verity, only half-formed now, face dissolving, eyes blazing with hate and sorrow. "This isn't over," she whispered. The ground beneath her gave way, and the entire house collapsed with a thunderous roar, swallowing her scream into dust. Tobi stumbled out through the gate, coughing, shaking alive. Behind him, the mansion burned without fire, fading until nothing was left but the sound of the wind. When Tobi opened his eyes again, he was lying on the road outside the mansion's compound. The air smelled of smoke and rain, though no clouds touched the sky. The other boys were scattered around him, coughing, dazed but alive. Behind them, where Madam Verity's mansion once stood, there was only an empty plot, flat, blackened soil where no gate, no wall, no tree remained. It was as if the house had never existed. Tobi staggered to his feet. His palms were bleeding, knees scraped raw. The boys gathered near him, shivering, their white shirts now gray with dust. One of them, the youngest, looked up at him with wide, trembling eyes. "You saved us," he said. Tobi wanted to believe that, but something inside him felt wrong, heavy, warm, alive. His chest burned as if something hot had been placed inside. He lifted his shirt slightly. A faint red mark glowed just over his heart, a small circle surrounded by symbols he didn't understand. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to him. "What's that?" another boy asked. "I don't know," Tobi whispered. "It's nothing." But it wasn't nothing. When he closed his eyes, he could hear her, Madam Verity's voice, faint but unmistakable. "You can't destroy what's already inside you." He gasped and stumbled back. The boys caught him, confused. "Are you okay?" "I just need water," he said quickly. They started walking. Down the road, the city was waking up. Hawkers calling, buses honking, music from a far-off radio mixing with the morning wind. Everything felt painfully normal. They passed a woman sweeping her compound. She froze when she saw them. "Yezu, where una come from like dis?" Tobi opened his mouth, but no words came. Another boy whispered, "We escaped." The woman blinked. "Escape from where?" They turned. The land behind them was empty. No house, no smoke, nothing. That's when an elderly woman in white wrappers appeared at the junction. She was short, dark-skinned, with cowries around her neck and a small clay pot in her hand. Her eyes were sharp and knowing. "Come," she said. "I've been waiting." The boys looked at each other. "Who are you?" Tobi asked. "I'm Mama Ataku," she said. "The one who told your father not to take her money. He didn't listen. Now she lives in you." Tobi froze. "In me?" Mama Ataku nodded. "When you broke the gourd, her spirit needed a vessel. She chose you." "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "That's not possible." I destroyed her. You freed her, Mama Atticus said gently. Now you must learn to keep her silent, or she'll rise again through you. The wind picked up. A faint laughter echoed through the air, familiar, cold and soft. Tobi pressed his palm to his chest. The mark pulsed again. He knew then. The house was gone, but Madam Verity wasn't. She was inside him waiting. That night, Tobi couldn't sleep. Mama Atticus had given the boys mats to rest on inside her small bungalow near a Jeej roundabout. But even surrounded by the hum of generators and the distant calls of street vendors, the silence inside him was too loud. He sat by the window, clutching his chest where the red mark still glowed faintly beneath his shirt. The room smelled of herbs and candle smoke. Across the floor, the other boys slept soundly, free, breathing, alive. But he wasn't free. Mama Atticus entered quietly, carrying a calabash filled with water that shimmered like light itself. You haven't closed your eyes, she said softly. Tobi shook his head. I hear her. Every time I blink. Her spirit clings to power, Mama Atticus said, setting the calabash down. When you destroyed the gourd, she bound herself to your soul. She cannot live without you now. So she's trapped. For now. The old woman drew a small circle of white chalk on the floor and placed a mirror at its center. The glass was old, cracked at one corner. We'll see how deep she's gone, she said. Tobi knelt in front of it, trembling. Look, Mama Atticus instructed. He did. At first, only his own reflection stared back. Tired eyes, dusty face, trembling lips. Then, slowly, the reflection blinked twice. His breath caught. The reflection smiled. Hello, my king. Madam Verity's voice purred from inside the glass. Her face replaced his, younger again, beautiful and cold. You thought you could kill me? Tobi stumbled backward. Stay out of my head. She laughed, a sound both sweet and cruel. I gave you everything. Comfort, food, love, and you repay me with fire. I want my life back. You already have it, she whispered. Because I am your life now. The mirror's surface rippled like water. Verity's hand pressed against the glass from the inside, her nails long and golden. Let me in, Tobi. We can be stronger together. No more hunger. No more pain. He shook his head, tears streaking his cheeks. You killed them all. And you saved them, she said gently. You and I, we balance each other. Without me, you'll fade like they did. Mama Atticus began to chant softly in Yoruba, sprinkling ash into the calabash water. The mirror hissed. Verity's smile faltered. Tobi clenched his fists. Leave me alone. Say the words, Mama Atticus urged. Send her away. He shouted, voice cracking. You don't own me. A blinding light burst from the mirror. Verity screamed, a sound that cracked the glass into 1,000 shards. Her reflection shattered, her voice fading into smoke. When silence returned, the red mark on his chest dimmed. Mama Atticus exhaled deeply. It is done. For now. Tobi wiped his face. For now. She nodded. Evil never dies, child. It only sleeps. He looked at the broken mirror. In one shard, faint and distant, Madam Verity's smile lingered, patient, waiting. Outside, Lagos roared to life. Danfos honking, radios blaring, the city pretending nothing had happened. But Tobi knew better. Some houses don't fall. They follow you home. Wow. Bestie, that one touched deep, didn't it? Life really has a funny way of teaching us lessons through people we least expect. If you felt the story like I did, drop a heart in the comments. Make sure you subscribe and join me again for our next gist, because you know your bestie never runs out of stories that I love you.